I've studied over 200 Shopify stores, and what I've learned is that there is a clear difference between the stores that are making millions of dollars and the stores that are barely staying open. And the funny thing is, these are things that anyone can do, whether they're just starting out a Shopify store or they've had a store for years. So in this video, I'm going to share with you every single tip that I have learned in my research. I'm going to break it down. I'm going to give it to you in easy to copy strategies that you can apply directly to your Shopify store so you can be in that top 1% as well. And ultimately, I'm going to help you get more visitors. I'm going to help you get more sales and get you more cash in your bank account. To do this, let's start with how these stores get customers on tip number 1. Create your content first and then run ads. What I've noticed with these $1 million stores is the amount of content they're putting out for free. They're posting short form videos, they're doing social media posts, they're creating blog articles, they're doing long form videos on YouTube. And the reason they do this is for two things. The first one is to try and capture as big an audience as possible and create a following that they continue to talk to over time. But the second reason is one that you probably don't realize. They're using it to find out which content resonates with their audience. They're measuring their likes, they're measuring their comments, they're measuring their shares. And then what they do is they take the posts that perform really, really well and they turn them into ads and put money behind them. Now, the reason they do this is they want to be confident that where they're spending money is going to give them the biggest return. So they use their social media profiles to test their content and then turn those into ads. It's called creative testing. Now, that gets them traffic to their store, but it doesn't necessarily guarantee them sales. And that's where tip number 2 comes into play. It's hard and expensive to get customers to our store these days. So when they do get to our store, we want to make sure that we can convert them into a sale. Or if we can't convert them into a sale, we need to have a strategy that gets them to come back and buy from us again. This is what I call the capture or convert strategy. When someone lands on your store, they're probably browsing around, they're looking at their products, and they're considering whether they should buy it or not. Unless there's some sort of urgency or scarcity, the chances are that they're going to leave your store. The way $1 million stores get people to come back is they put incentives in place when people show intent to leave. They might do something like an exit pop-up. They might do a welcome pop-up. They might do some sort of notify me button. And then they use those pop-ups to capture the person's information and then move them into some sort of automation software like Klaviyo. That then goes into an automation flow, which we'll talk about in a few tips time, that then brings the customer back into their store. And then that makes this next tip even more powerful, which is send more emails. I've worked inside some of the biggest retail brands in Australia running their e-commerce teams. And one thing that was consistent across the 17 brands I worked in was their heavy reliance on their email marketing. In fact, email marketing contributed to 30 to 40% of the overall e-commerce revenue within that business. See, these brands know that every time they send an email, they make money. They understand the value of the email list. They also understand that they've probably paid for that email address to go in there, so they need to monetize it and turn it into cash. They also know that sending emails are effectively free. We don't need to rely on ads to get our customers in here. Emails are also like a big bucket of customers. You can just dip your hand in and pull them out when you need to make some revenue. Now, I know what you're thinking. Emails are spam and I shouldn't be sending many emails. Now, why do you think you're always getting emails from some of the biggest brands? It's because they know they work. Just because you don't like receiving emails, it doesn't necessarily mean your customers don't like receiving emails. So what I've learned here is $1 million brands send more emails than you think they do. They're sending at least 3 to 5 emails per week because every single email that they send makes them money. Now, emails will get you traffic to your store, but you do need to convert them. And that's where this next tip comes in. And it's all about improving your conversion rates. Tip number 4 is sell the outcome, don't sell the product. I noticed this was very consistent across all the $1 million stores I looked at. You see, successful businesses know that people don't buy products, they buy outcomes. It's called the Rolex effect. When you buy a Rolex, you're not buying a tool to tell the time. You're buying a statement. You're buying a statement that says, I'm successful. You're buying a statement that says, I can afford luxury. The same goes for fashion brands. If it was all about function, we'd all be wearing cheap clothes and not be wearing a brand. Think about it this way. Nike sells motivation. They don't sell shoes. Amazon sells convenience. They don't sell products. McDonald's sells happiness. They don't sell burgers. I think you get the point. The goal is you want to create the dream outcome for the customer who buys your product. What is it that your product actually does for them? What is the outcome that they want? What's the emotional state? What's the feeling that they want to get when they buy their product? You need to sell that to them and then tell them how the product gets them to that state. And the best way to know whether or not you've nailed this messaging to your customer is where we move on to the next tip. And that is focusing on the funnel. When I was looking at stores that weren't making sales versus the ones that were, there was one clear difference in the way they look at their information. Stores that weren't making sales, all they're focused on was the revenue number, whereas the stores that were focused on their conversion funnel. You see, they know that sales are an outcome of the activity that your customer takes. And this is where the conversion funnel comes in. Now, the conversion funnel is made up of multiple steps. The first step is they've got to get to your site. The second step is they need to view a product. The third one is they need to add to cart. They then need to get to the checkout, and then they need to get to a purchase. That's 5 steps. Your job is to make sure that you remove any barriers from them taking the next step. And this is called fixing the conversion funnel. What $1 million stores do is they look at every step of that funnel and they see where the drop off is. If there's a low add to cart rate, maybe your messaging isn't correct. If there's a low checkout to conversion rate, maybe you've got shipping problems. But the idea is that you want to reverse engineer from your revenue all the way back through your funnel to see where some of those roadblocks are. Now, if you've done all that, you're definitely on your way to getting to $1 million store, but you're really going to need to nail this next step to improve your conversion rates. And this is removing reasons for no. You may have heard of a guy called Alex Hormozi. He wrote a book which is called $1 Million Offers, and it's a great book. But one of the core principles of the book was to create an offer that people feel stupid to say no to. And you need to do the same thing on your e-commerce store. The way I like to think of this is there a reason that someone would say no to buying your product? And a good way for you to test this is to ask yourself these questions. Is there a guarantee that the product does what it says? And if it doesn't, can I get some help? Will I get the product fast? Is support easy to get? Do I think the price is worth the outcome? Do other people love this product also? If every one of these answers you can confidently say yes to, then your customers are going to feel stupid saying no to buying your product. And what $1 million stores do is they do a great job of communicating the answers to every one of those questions on their product page. And if you get that right, then you can move on to the next step, which is how to keep customers coming back to you time and time again. And that's retention. The best way to nail retention is to set up automated flows. And the most successful way I've seen these stores really nail retention is to set up automated marketing. One of the biggest differences between successful and unsuccessful stores is unsuccessful stores just focus on always getting new customers, where successful stores focus on keeping as many customers as possible while getting new customers in, because that builds the business. And they use email automation to do a lot of this. And the top flows that I see working time and time again and consistently print money for these stores is your welcome flow, your abandoned cart flow, and your win back flow. Those 3 flows alone generate so much automated money that if you're not doing them, you are absolutely leaving cash on the table. But that's not the only thing they automate. They automate the posting of social media posts across all platforms. They'll create one post and that gets spread out across everywhere. They use tools like Repurpose. They use tools like Klaviyo. They use social media scheduling tools to make sure the technology automates all that hard work for them. And the final thing they automate is their customer service. You see, people always have the same sort of questions all the time. They're always asking, when's my order? Does this thing do that? Does it fit? All those sorts of things, which means humans are constantly repeating their answers. So they automate a lot of this with AI chatbots. They put in frequently asked questions. They create knowledge bases. They just want to take that repetitive work and automate it as best as they can. But all that automation goes down the drain if they don't do this next tip, which is gathering feedback and creating a feedback loop. Now, this strategy is not only important if you want to grow, but it's also important if you want to keep customers and continually improve your business. And this is by getting customers to tell you what they like about your business and what they don't like. So one thing that every single successful store did was have a really solid review platform, but not only just capturing reviews, presenting and replying to reviews. So we recommend tools like Klaviyo or Judge Me or Yotpo or Akendo. Any of those really sophisticated reviews platforms need to be on your store. And like I said in tip number 6, we've got to show proof that people actually like your products. And this is where reviews are super powerful. But reviews aren't the only way to get feedback. And this is what I've learned in this next tip. And that is to build a community. This is not a tactic that I hear many people talk about, but it was absolutely one of the things that differentiated not very good stores to very good stores. And it was to build a community of raving fans. You see, humans innately want to be part of a community. They want to feel like they belong. They want to have an identity. They want to be around people that are interested in the same things as them. It's why we follow sports teams. It's why we join community clubs. It's why we do all those things as a group. We're a tribe. We've been brought up like that. So we now need to do that when it comes to building our business. We want to build a fan base of people that are going to scream from the rooftops about us. Now, it's not that hard to do, right? There's so many tools out there there. The brands that I see do it are not very sophisticated. They're starting things like Facebook groups. They're using Instagram broadcast channels, even WhatsApp groups, or some of them just have a really good social presence where they're continually communicating with their fans. This has to be a two-way conversation though, where you're asking questions to your fans and they're giving you feedback. You're taking that feedback on and you're using it to improve your business. You'll then know everything about your customers, which will help us move on to the next tip, which is scaling your Shopify store by understanding your unit economics. If there was one major difference that I could say between successful entrepreneurs and failures, is the successful ones know their numbers intimately. They know everything that makes their business tick. And the biggest one when it comes to e-commerce is understanding your unit economics. This is knowing what are the cost of goods, what are your variable costs, what are your operational expenditures, how much you're spending on marketing, and how does that all work together to get the outcome of sales and profitability. They check this daily. They know how much profit they're making every single day. They know what levers to pull in their business to grow their business. They know where to spend money on ads. They know where to pull back. They know where their expenses are. Because by knowing this, they combine it with the next set of numbers they should know, which is the next tip, and that's understanding your analytics. The great thing that I love about running an e-commerce business is the data that this business gets. There's actually no other business in the world that gets this much kind of data that we can leverage. But the key to being successful is understanding how to use this data and what actions you can take out of it. We could read data for days, but if we don't do anything with it, then it's pointless. Successful entrepreneurs know which data to look at and don't get distracted by all the other pieces of information. They focus on some core data that they can impact. And the 4 pieces of data that they use when it comes to e-commerce is how many sessions they're getting, what's the conversion rate of those sessions? How much is everyone spending per session? And then how many people are coming back? So in terms of Shopify data, that's sessions, conversion rate, average order value, and return customer rate. You need to know those intimately every single day to scale your store. That then allows these entrepreneurs to focus on this final tip, which is adapting to new technology fast. Successful stores know that they need to get on top of technology before their competitors. They need to always stay ahead. And one of the biggest ones that I see consistently across the successful stores is leveraging AI. Now they're using AI across pretty much every part of their business. Some of the things I'm seeing is they're using them from an SEO perspective to write blog posts. That's pretty easy. Everybody's doing that. They're using them now for support chat. They're also using them to plan out their marketing plan. They're asking places like ChatGPT to plan out their marketing. They're building custom GPTs about their brand to have an AI as their marketing manager. I'm even seeing some of these brands using AI to go out and call customers to try and recover abandoned carts. That's via phone call, using an AI to call customers. These are the sort of things that these $1 million stores are doing to really separate themselves from the mediocre stores. So if you're not using AI in your store, it's an absolute hidden gem that you need to be doing. Now, of course, if you implement these tips into your store, you are going to be so much closer to being $1 million successful store. But if you did want some help, I'm the head coach of the e-commerce academy, and we basically help you implement each of these strategies directly into your business. We've got videos, we've got coaches, we've got classes, we've got everything that helps you put these in the right way so that you can get sales faster. Now, if you're interested, I have got some information down below. Feel free to check it out. But if you just want to binge, what I'd recommend is subscribe to this channel because I put videos out like this all the time. And here is 2 videos that I think would be the right next steps for you and growing your Shopify store.